Good afternoon. It's John Labman at Simply Awake. Today I want to talk to you about what Simply Awake is. And what we are, what I do, is combine the best of Western psychotherapy so that you can cope with all of the complexity of your left brain, and the best of Eastern spirituality so you can have the access and the joy of your connection to the divine through the right brain. And you may think these terms are strange, but if you studied brain anatomy, you read a book like Stroke of Insight by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, or her latest book, Whole Brain Living, which I highly recommend, you'll see that in her experience of having a stroke where the entire left side of her brain stopped working, she was instantly in the state of bliss that all of you aspire to, whether through traditional Eastern yoga, mysticism, and Hinduism and Buddhism and all those things, or through Western psychotherapy. And what Dr. Taylor tells us is that her left brain goes offline, her right brain functions as an immediate connection to everything that we've always wanted: love, bliss, freedom, peace, a feeling of unity with all that is, intimacy with the 10,000 things, as they say in some of the Zen traditions. And very instructive to me that she sees the brain as having a whole hemisphere that's devoted to our spiritual development and will allow all the greatest qualities of human life to appear in your life if you pay attention to it. But in order to do that, I see very clearly, with 25 years of experience as a licensed professional counselor, well, I didn't become licensed until 2010, so 15 years licensed, but 25 years practicing, that if people can't get through the anxiety and the stress and the depression and the suffering and the bad thinking about themselves, that inner chatter that's so negative, they never seem to be able to access all the brilliance of the right brain and all of what it can offer. And so I've made it my business at Simply Awake to be a guide to functionality in the left brain, because we have to function in the three-dimensional world, as well as what's sometimes called enlightenment or spiritual awakening or liberation in the right brain. And I've come to the conclusion that in the spiritual realms, we're often sold a bill of goods, as if once we reach liberation, once the right brain is functioning, our connection to the divine is obvious, that everything will be hunky-dory, we'll never have to deal with the left brain at all. But the left brain is our connection to three-dimensional reality, and is our ability to language and communicate with other people, and is our ability to function effectively in the three-dimensional world in which we're stuck, like it or not, liberated or not. You get liberated, you're not going to disappear into some altered dimension. You're still, you might say, stuck here in three-dimensional reality until the day that your body dies. So I see that in psychotherapy, the limitation is you're always stuck in your ego, and your ego can always create a new ego identity with new problems. In fact, it creates an identity. The mind creates an ego out of words and an identity out of words, and never stops doing that until we see that there is another part of the brain that doesn't need to do that at all. That in fact the ego is supposed to be just sort of a temporary interface between that part of us which is divine and the three-dimensional reality that we sometimes call consensual reality, or the matrix, or which I've recently referred to as zombie land, or the dream state in traditional spirituality. So you can do all the psychotherapy you want, you'll never really be free of ego until you go and work with a spirituality that opens your right brain up and allows you access to all that's there. And similarly, in spirituality, you end up with these gurus who are telling you to worship them as an avenue to the divine, which is no different than listening to the priest in some of the traditional religions, or the preacher, who's now your avenue to doing it right and having a connection to the divine. But the problem is you still don't gain access to your own capacities. You're really, in a sense, putting the ego of the guru on a nice pedestal and mistaking them for your own capacity to experience the divine yourself. And so in spirituality, great, you can develop all kinds of spiritual adaptabilities and have all kinds of great experiences, but the problem is in most of Eastern spirituality, they don't teach you that you're going to have to function with your identity of some sort and memories and something called an amygdala in your brain, which is like the emotional smoke detector of your brain. It makes you react to things that have hurt you in the past. And, basically traditional spirituality teaches you nothing about all of that. So I've looked at both sides and see that when you put Eastern spirituality and Western psychotherapy together, you actually have all the tools you need to be a functioning human being and to have access to the infinite, eternal nature that you have access to. If you can only get rid of all the obscuring of the left brain and its kind of hysterias and its spirals into depression and anxiety and its endless iterations of speech. So a little bit technical here. I'm trying to make things as simple as I can, but I've got to at least give you a background in the fact that I see awakening as being both a left brain and a right brain thing, both a Western psychotherapy and an Eastern spirituality thing. I have done for a long time because I wrote my thesis for graduate school, which I finished in November of 2000. I wrote that thesis on whether psychotherapy could be integrated with yoga philosophy. And of course it can. In fact, we see that happening all the time nowadays, but 25 years ago, that was sort of a weird thing, an odd or strange thing. Leave it to me to be out of step with the times, but there you go. And so, I want to offer you guidance, not guruship. I'm not a guru. I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to be worshipped. I don't want to be anybody's teacher. I don't want to be on a pedestal. But I will be a guide to you and will be committed to your process as long as you're committed to working with me. And people also come in and out for the past 25 years very often. I've got somebody coming back after a year. Well, a year ago, he was here for one session. I'm guessing that he's going to do the same this time. So I'm very flexible now. The path to enlightenment or liberation creates flexibility in a person, and quite willing to hang on and hang in there with you as you traverse your own path through this life, whether that is just getting clear in the left brain and dealing with the ego effectively, or it's going all the way to also understanding the right brain, all the capacities of the right brain, and enjoying your divine nature. Well, that's what I wanted to say for today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, given that it's a Friday here in the United States, Eastern Pennsylvania. It's January 31st, and it's around 4:30 p.m. to locate us in three-dimensional time and space again, as usual. So lots of love from here. Have a wonderful weekend. And goodbye for now.